Alright, we're back. Let's get right into it.
Dragon Ball, I'm sure many come to mind, but who's actually the most useless, prominent character in the entire series? And are they even actually useless? Well, let's start with one that people are wrong about, Yamcha. It might seem easy to call Yamcha useless, but has he actually done nothing in the series? While he's always had comedic elements tied to his character, if we go back far enough, we could see how he was better utilized in the original manga, despite basically never being an important character overall. I'd personally say that Yamcha stepping in for Krillin against the Cybermen, because Krillin was already killed once, is tremendously important. Obviously, Krillin couldn't be revived by Earth's Dragon Balls, while Yamcha still could, so it was a sensible decision, but it has a far bigger impact than that. Krillin plays a crucial role later in Vegeta's defeat, but it can be argued Yamcha could fill that role as well. The battles on Namek, though, are where Krillin might be more required since he might just have more potential than Yamcha, and he even starts at a higher power level immediately. But that's assuming they even go to Namek at all, or in time. Remember, this idea of going to planet Namek for the Namekian Dragon Balls was Krillin's idea in the first place, which I think a lot of people forget. So if Krillin dies instead of Yamcha, and they need to wait for him to reach King Kai's planet before he can communicate his idea of going to Namek with everyone, it would probably be too late, since Goku was already on his way to Namek when the dead fighters reach King Kai's planet in canon. So Yamcha's sacrifice here was pretty damn important. Something Yamcha has always been useful for is showing how powerful the next threat is to the viewer and the cast. When he falls to Android 20, aka Dr. Gero, it shows us they're not a threat to take lightly, and more importantly, he discovers their energy absorption ability, though he seems to doubt it when Goku fights Android 19, so I guess it's not the most important thing. In original Dragon Ball, Yamcha also shows how strong new foes are, specifically in the Tenkaichi Budokai, where he often loses to the tournament's winner, or in the case of the 23rd, he's the one to reveal that Shen was Kami in disguise to Goku, because he made him fight seriously. Yamcha is also the one to figure out that cutting off Goku's tail would be the best way to stop his Ozaru rampage, which might have led to a far worse outcome if it wasn't stopped as quickly as it was. But by far, the single most useful thing Yamcha has ever done in the series is cheat on Bulma, and I'm not kidding. I promise I'm not kidding. I know some people believe that Yamcha didn't cheat on her because he used to be scared of women and Bulma was always the flirty one, but Toriyama making Yamcha the cheater is a pretty funny joke to me, and it's what the manga says, so I don't care about your headcanon. If Yamcha doesn't cheat on Bulma, Trunks, and more specifically future Trunks, aren't born, and that creates a lot of problems around the time of the androids. It's possible Bulma still builds a time machine and goes herself, but don't forget they'd still have the future androids, who Bulma would struggle to get close enough to deactivate even with blueprints, and Future Cell would kill her regardless of if she knows he's coming or not. It also led to Vegeta and Bulma getting together, which is what begins Vegeta's change of heart in a more significant way going forward. Vegeta had to see his son.
Hey guys! Today we're going to learn how to add this scrolling animation to your website in Wiki.
Die in front of him to solidify his change of heart, and that only happens if he has a son in the first place. So thanks, Yamcha. So you might be noticing by now that a lot of the things I'm listing are relatively small or have a few caveats, but this is a list of the most useless characters in the series, alright? There's not much useful stuff they've done to pick from. We can't talk about Yamcha without talking about Puar though, and Puar has this weird problem of being mostly useless aside from the first arc of the series, but believe it or not, that's actually enough to not be the most useless prominent character in the series. Remember how I gave Yamcha credit for stopping Goku's rampage? Well, one other key player in that was Puar, who transformed into a pair of scissors to cut off Goku's tail, something that Yamcha couldn't have done on his own, so it was something important that both of them did together. There's also the DBS anime continuity, which was the main canon for a while, so I think it's worth discussing. In Dragon Ball Super episode 42, Puar transforms into Beerus to get Goku and Beerus, who's disguised as Monaka, to stop fighting, which is pretty important since their fight would have destroyed all of West City and possibly the entire Earth if it went on for much longer. There's also the period before the Tournament of Power, where Puar is a crucial part of Master Roshi's training, though I really don't want to get into details about it, so I'll leave it at that. There's also someone else who can transform though, Oolong. And despite Oolong somehow being less useful than Puar, he's still not the most useless character in the series. In the very first arc of Dragon Ball, Oolong is the one to make a wish on the Dragon Balls, stopping the Pilaf gang from getting world domination. His wish could have been better for sure, but given the time constraint and what it prevented, I'd still give him a lot of credit for it. I hope you're starting to realize how tough the fight for most useless character in the series actually is. Oolong's done one thing right in his entire damn life, and that's enough to stop him from being the most useless character in the entire series. But our next 4 characters get called useless when they're really not. So let's debunk the slander. First up, we have a winner of the Tenkaichi Budokai, Ten Shinhan. You see, Ten Shinhan, especially in Dragon Ball Super, hasn't been given much time to really shine, and because of that, there's a lot of people chirping on Twitter about his usefulness. In the manga, he gets knocked out of the Tournament of Power extremely easily and early, and in the anime, he takes out a sniper character that apparently no one else could handle, but he also does it in the dumbest way possible, and he can't even handle a mind-controlled Master Roshi on his own. That's a character he was supposed to have far surpassed years ago at this point, by the way. Even in original Dragon Ball, Ten Shinhan's win at the World Tournament is technically due to luck more than anything else, and he loses to an underling of King Piccolo, not even getting a chance to fight the Demon King on his own. I get it, that feels pretty useless, but he does kill a Cyberman without dying, something that even Yamcha can't say, and in the Cell Saga, he stalls Cell for a while, buying time for Vegeta and Trunks to finish their training and Android 18 to potentially escape. The point isn't if things work out, he was as useful as he could be in that moment, not just standing around watching everyone else do everything. And at least he didn't join the Island of Bad Decisions gang I talked about in this video. Ten Shinhan also stops Buu from killing Gohan in the Buu Saga in a similar way. Compare this to what even Krillin did in these arcs, and it feels like Ten Shinhan is the one trying his hardest here to actually be useful. I do definitely think he could be treated better though. Next is the last original Dragon Ball character we have, Yajirobe. And honestly, he might be one of the most useful characters in this video. Yajirobe had one of the Dragon Balls when he was first introduced, which allowed Goku to find and eat Yajirobe's food, replenishing his stamina so he could later defeat Tambourine. After Goku lost to the old Demon King Piccolo, Yajirobe is the one to take him to Karin's tower and even climbs the tower with Goku on his back to get Goku to the top. After climbing the tower just this once, Yajirobe became pretty much the default Senzu delivery guy, at least for a little bit, but all of this might be superseded by Yajirobe being a crucial part in chasing Vegeta off of Earth. You see, Ozaru Vegeta was likely going to win the fight, so without Yajirobe heroically cutting off his tail when Krillin failed to, the Earth would have suffered an even worse fate than from Demon King Piccolo. The third character that gets slandered for absolutely no reason is clearly Mr. Satan. I even made a whole video about him already, so you can check that out for more details. But he was crucial in stopping Cell when he bravely throws Android 16's head to Gohan despite still not understanding what's actually going on and ultimately triggering Gohan's transformation without requiring the deaths of other Z fighters to the Cell Juniors. He's also a
Hey, is this you? Too many alerts, way too many tools, not enough people, not enough hours in the day? Let's fast forward. Look at you now. You have a
massive help in the fight against Buu by not only stalling Buu by befriending him, which likely gave Goten and Trunks more time to learn fusion, but also using his influence as a celebrity to get the people of Earth to donate their ki to the Spirit Bomb, directly turning his clout into power and being crucial in the killing of Buu. The final character that gets called useless is actually technically 2 characters, but is sometimes 1 character, so I'm treating them as 1 character for the sake of this video. Supreme Kai, Kibito, and Kibito Kai. While I agree Supreme Kai and Kibito are not well educated on their position, or even the things they choose to get involved with, they are useful. Shin was able to kill Bibidi 5 million years before the series began, stopping Buu's universal rampage and saving the Earth from being destroyed as it was Buu's next target. In the future timeline, he trains Trunks with the Z-Sword and sacrifices his life to stop Buu's resurrection early. While in the present timeline, he warns the Z-Fighters of Buu, giving them a chance to handle or prepare for the threat, he trains Gohan to beat Buu, which inadvertently leads to Gohan getting the ultimate form. He saves Goku and Vegeta from Earth's destruction, which is needed for the Spirit Bomb plan to even be made. And he even teleports to New Namek so they could use their Dragon Balls to restore the Earth and everyone on it. With just his efforts in the Buu Saga alone, he's done more than enough to prove that he's not not useless. He also did something in the Dragon Ball Super manga, which I'm sure some of you will still consider spoilers, so skip to this timestamp here if you want to avoid it. At the end of the Moro arc, Meris is spared from erasure by the Grand
I didn't
Priest
watch
because
that.
Supreme
I don't
Kai
think I'm
begged
going
for
to.
it. While this hasn't paid off yet, I've speculated in my video on the potential next Tournament of Power that Meris could easily be on Team Universe 7, not to mention other future roles he may have in the story. Which leaves us with the single most useless
not
prominent
watched
character in
Dragon
the
Ball
entire
after
series.
episode 1.
Super Saiyan
I ain't
3 Goku.
got
I'm kidding. I'm
the-
kidding. It's Chaozu. It's clearly Chaozu. It's obviously Chaozu. How could it be anyone but Chaozu? Like,
Is it-
what has he actually done in the story? In the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai, he loses
I
to
thought
Krillin, which
somebody
doesn't
was
lead to
out.
anything really. In the 23rd, Yamcha makes it further than him because he loses to Cyborg Tao Pai Pai, a character that gets no diff by seemingly any other Z fighter present at the tournament. At least he was able to use his telekinesis to change the tournament order, but does it even really matter? All it did was make Goku versus Piccolo happen at the end of the tournament, which is cool, I guess, but not super useful, I'd say. And don't get me started on his fights outside of tournaments, though. He tries to make a different wish on Shenron so King Piccolo wouldn't get his youth, but just dies instead, having done nothing. He tries to hold Nappa in place with telekinesis. It doesn't work. He tries to self-destruct as a way to kill Nappa, and he's as successful doing that as Vegeta was with Buu. Then after that, I think he just retired, because where is he? They bring him back to life with the Namekian Dragon Balls for him to show up and realistically do nothing against Mecha Frieza and King Cold, then he just stops showing up. Piccolo basically tells everyone present, if you can't handle being stronger than Frieza and King Cold, don't bother showing up in 3 years for the androids. And the only character with this warning to not show up after training is Chaozu. You might think there's a different reason, but nope, it's explicitly because he's just not built for this shit anymore. A child and even Yamcha are more prepared for this threat than Chaozu, someone who's probably a more seasoned and trained martial artist than both of them. Chaozu doesn't show up to the Cell games at all, and I think he makes like 2 appearances in the Buu Saga, neither during a fight. He doesn't even go to the tournament at the beginning of the arc. But all of that is just the icing on the cake, because the reason I made this video was someone telling me that Chaozu and Goku have never spoken to each other in the original manga. While I can't speak for Dragon Ball Super or even filler scenes in the anime, I can say this fact is only kinda true. As far as I could find, Goku says via telepathy, through King Kai, through Yamcha, to Chaozu, in the afterlife, congrats on him getting a new body after pointlessly blowing it up in the fight with the Saiyans. The main character has spoken to him once, and it was with like 3 degrees of separation from another realm of the universe. This is 4 arcs after Chaozu was introduced to the story, by the way. So I hope it's clear now, but Chaozu is without a doubt the most useless, prominent character in the entire Dragon Ball series. And it isn't even close. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and thank you so very much for watching.
Alright. Thank y'all for watching. We gonna get out of here. We out.